Okay, good morning, everybody. First of all, thank you to Ms. Townsend for reminding us of why we're doing this research. So it really is very moving and very inspiring to us. So thank you. So I'm here to represent the University of Texas Houston team that's been focusing on EHR usability over the last 3.5 years. So yesterday evening, I pulled up the proposal that was originally written by Walji and the team and looked up the two aims that we had. And I'll just read them because what we want to do here is kind of reflect on how well did we meet these aims. So our aim one for our EHR usability team was to develop highly efficient tools for developers and vendors to quickly identify and prioritize critical usability problems. So remember, this was nearly 4 years ago when all of the meaningful use stuff was coming down the pipeline, and all the providers were quickly trying to adopt these systems. But we knew that there were problems when it came to EHR usability. Aim 2 for us was to develop a work-centered toolkit for removing usability problems in existing systems and also designing new systems with built-in usability. So those were our two aims. Aim 1 was to help quickly find usability problems for the vendors, and aim 2 was more of a longer term to try and help remove usability from these systems and also in helping designing new ones. So as academics do, first thing we had was a framework, some guiding principles for us when it came to EHR usability. And this has come out from decades of work, primarily from Walji, thinking about how usability as a system works. So we define usability a little bit differently from the traditional ISO definitions of effectiveness and efficiency and satisfaction. There's one component that we think is critical, which is the addition of thinking about the usefulness of a system, in addition to looking at some of the usability principles as well. So we believe that an electronic health record has two components. So if you look on the left side, one is the intrinsic complexity, and the other is the extrinsic difficulty. The intrinsic complexity you can think of as the actual work that needs to occur in the domain of interest that you're trying to design for, independent of any type of technical implementation. Right? The work that a physician or a nurse does to take care of the patient, which may or may not involve the use of technology. Extrinsic difficulty is that. It's actually now, if you actually have to do that task with a system, what are the things that user actually has to accomplish to do it? So that's the extrinsic difficulty. So we think that you can get at the usefulness of the system by doing what's called a functional analysis, by really understanding the work domain. We think you can get at satisfaction. Satisfaction is somewhat of a subjective measure that we can derive from the users themselves. And then usableness, which is the traditional ISO definition of usability, you can get at through representation and task analysis. And this is the reason why we call this framework TURF. T stands for task, U for user, R for representation, and F for function. So this paper was published in 2011, and we thought, hopefully it will change the world. Finally, there's a overarching framework that everybody, including our vendor friends, can actually understand and put into practice. So in order to help with aim 1, remember aim 1 was to kind of help the vendors prioritize and identify critical usability problems. We came up with a methodology called the rapid usability assessment, and it had two components. Usability isn't something that was invented from sharp C. This has been done through decades and decades of work. So one of the techniques is expert review or heuristic evaluation. And this involves basically a group of experts who are knowledgeable about usability and the domain of interest, going through and inspecting a system and trying to find usability problems against a set of usability guidelines or heuristics. And when I found this picture, I imagined, this was Dr. Norman, writing in his earlier days, writing Design of Everyday Things. So I don't know if you see the resemblance there. So the next analysis is keystroke level modeling, and this is an approach that we can use to kind of predict the amount of time it may take to do various tasks. And this, you don't have to sit a user in front of a computer. You can actually do a modeling exercise. And it gives you best estimate of how long a task should take. So we thought these were two really good methods that we can quickly run through, and we offered a service to vendors. And we thought, again, we would have vendors knocking on our door because the cost of this was essentially nothing. It was just a couple of $1,000s, and we would spend nearly 100 hours of work inspecting their systems using the ONC funding and giving them back a report, confidential report that they can actually then use to improve their system immediately. So this is what we found. This was results from 7 vendor systems, and we went through the meaningful use objectives. I think this was back in stage 1, so we selected 10 or 12 of the objectives, and essentially we did this analysis and we found lots and lots of problems. It was a great learning experience for our team because we started to really understand some of the challenges the clinicians were potentially facing in using these systems, and like I mentioned, would give the report back. Some meaningful use tasks were more complex than others, and they had many more usability problems. Similarly, we did the same for time. We found, for example, some tasks just took an inordinate amount of time to actually complete. And if you think the average encounter is 15 minutes and you actually have to talk with the patient and all of that stuff, there isn't actually that much time to do all of these EHR tasks. If you add all of this up, it actually added up to 15, 20 minutes just in itself, and this is best estimates of time. So we knew that there was a problem, and we thought we were providing a great service. But again, we were a bit surprised because we only had 6 or 7 vendors take us up on this opportunity that we thought that we can provide them with advice and feedback. So that was telling for us at that point. So then we began to realize that perhaps what we were suggesting, as academics do, isn't readily consumable by others. And so we started to think about what would actually be needed in order to translate some of the work that we've done and actually make an impact. And then came along this great thing that ONC did, and we heard a little bit about this before. Usability for the first time was actually mandated as part of the 2014 EHR certification criteria, and this was called Safety Enhanced Design. And I believe that this was the game changer. We're hoping from the Sharp-C perspective, we kind of laid some of the foundation for this to actually occur. So I agree with Walji that this perhaps is a major contribution that we had. But now, for the very first time, vendors had to look at these 8 meaningful use objectives, all related to medication safety, and we heard some of the issues with errors when it comes to medications. Vendors actually had to go through a summative user testing process and show their results in a public way that you can actually download to get some of that data, and Amy will go through that in the next presentation. So this changed the game for us. The other thing that we did, and again, a lot of credit goes to our ONC, to the ONC, because this was actually their suggestion that we better understand the actual needs of our vendor partners in this. When we first started this project, we thought we had a pretty good understanding, but it turned out we probably did not have a complete picture of that. So working with colleagues at MedStar, who we contracted with, they went out and helped us understand some of the requirements when it came to vendors. And by doing this process, we were able to narrow down the target group that we were focused on. We found that there were a lot of vendors who do have good usability expertise, but there were a lot who did not. And it was those kind of groups that we really focused our efforts on. So one of the main other contributions we made was a software tool called TURF. And TURF, using little letters, T-U-R-F, is the platform, and TURF with the big letters is the framework. And what we did was we developed software that allows anybody, a vendor, a implementation site, to actually conduct and compile all the data regarding user testing, the expert review or heuristic evaluation. We have a really nice analytics module that you're able to use to actually generate the report that may be required for safety enhanced design. And lastly, and probably equally as important, we spent a lot of time trying to think about what material is actually needed to the vendors, because it really isn't as simple as giving somebody some software and asking them to do an evaluation. You do actually need to have trained people who know how to do usability. So we spent a lot of time thinking about both the software training, but also the training when it comes to usability. The other main thing that we got out of this is that we were able to eat our own dog food. Because again, as Don Norman alluded to before, it's very easy for us as academics to tell others how to design things when we haven't designed anything ourselves. So this provided us an opportunity to actually work on a real software project. And it is really difficult. Designing a good software, even for usability, is really, really hard. And we learned about the challenges between software developers and usability people and the constraints and budgets and all of these things and that come across. Is it more important to fix a bug, or is it more important to make a design change? And so we had all of these sorts of issues. So it was very, very eye-opening to us. So it really was a great experience. So here, we've got some good reviews. If you're interested, we're going to have a booth outside here that you can actually go ahead and play with turfs. I'm not going to show you some of the screenshots. We're in version 2 right now. Version 3, will be released very soon. So we had a review from an online blogger. They said, I found turf to be versatile, robust, seemed its complexity masks an ability to work in various settings and tackle a host of problems. If you aren't happy with your EHR's interface, turf gives you a remarkable tool to show what's wrong, etc. So we're very, very pleased with some of the feedback that we're getting, as well as with some of our beta testers who have really helped us improve this product. So we do hope that a tool like this, now that it is available, can be used by others to improve the usability of their systems. So in closing, this work has been done over the last 3.5 years by a whole group of people. And the people I've listed here on the slides are just the current people that are working on this project. So thanks to Jiaji Zhang and Amy Franklin, as well as Chris-Ann Graves. Min Zhu, I don't know if Min is here, he was our software lead and architect for this project. And he was often the one getting the brunt of our usability comments. And then all of our research associates, Divaka, Ruling, Adriana, Lewis, Anu, and Ming, who helped to this. Also, I do want to thank ONC, because for me, it's been a very interesting experience over the last 3.5 years. Having worked on other grants, this is not a grant. This is a cooperative agreement, as we were reminded. But it really did improve our project, because we did get a lot of very insightful feedback that helped us to learn. Also, thanks to EHR vendors, especially the 6 to 7 who at the beginning of our project were brave enough to submit their software to our testing lab and receive the results. We heard anecdotally from one of them that an Excel spreadsheet was floating around their environment, and a new usability member had been hired, and now they were going through that list with which we had created a 1.5 years before, trying to look and see if these problems had actually been resolved or not. So we do think that some of the work that we've done has actually had an impact. So again, thank you all for your attention, and we hope that this is really a beginning for us to continue some of the work. Going back to kind of the aims that we had, I don't think we've achieved the aims, and perhaps our aims were even wrong, in terms of maybe the aims shouldn't have been that we want to try and fix problems or help vendors design new systems. I think perhaps our aims at the beginning should have been to really try and understand what the actual usability issues and problems were, and then develop solutions for that. So again, thank you very much.